So it's been a learning curve, and you learn a lot about a lot of different people, and your circle gets smaller. And I think that's probably one of the reasons God put me in there, to just learn a lot and make my circle smaller. And you just have to listen to him and pay attention to it and say, okay, all right, you're off, you're off, you're off, you're on, you're on, you're on.
والقرآن المجيد بل عجبوا أن جاءهم منذر منهم فقال الكافرون هذا شيء عجيب.
Hey, salam y'all, and right now we are here in the outskirts of Al Medina. We have some mountains behind me, and I wanted to talk a little bit about the recent interview that Andrew Tate had on the PBD podcast. So far right now, it has reached over 9 million views on PBD's podcast channel on YouTube alone. So this is not considering all the other channels and other people who've shared it and other people who've picked it up. So it is going viral in just 3 days. They sat there talking for over 4.5 hours, and that's after they deleted some of the other content that they didn't find suitable to put on the channel. Overall, from what I have seen of it, because I did not watch the entire thing because it's just really long and it takes a lot of time, it was really beneficial. Look, let's just put it like this.
Today, Junior?
What we can take away from this is that Andrew Tate continues to be a positive influence and source of inspiration for young men, for young businessmen, and people who are trying to go and make their lives more positive and have an impact on others. This is one thing that I think he is doing very good. And when you look at the interview, one thing that he constantly always brought things back to was how he sees what happens to him in a positive light. So anything that he mentions or refers to, he consistently would return back to, how was this positive? How did this affect me in a good way? What did I learn from it? And see, as Muslims, the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said is that we as Muslims, we should be viewing things positively, right? He even said that it's haram to see negative omens and bad things, and it can even lead to shirk. But it's permissible and actually a good thing to see the good in situations that happen around you. When something happens, use it as a good assumption for Allah. And I think this is something that he really has going for him. This is one of the reasons why he has been so successful, is because he spreads that positivity to other people. He's not someone who is constantly trying to be negative or taking people down. Yes, does he talk about the matrix and the negativity from it, but he himself is not trying to bring other people down, but rather he is helping them to achieve success, to help them achieve fulfillment in their life. And as Muslims, the greatest fulfillment that we can have is to be of those people who Allah is pleased with. And how do we do that? By following the Quran and the Sunnah, and also to be of those people who use excellence in everything that we do, whether it's with work, our relationships, our families, and so on. Also, I think what you'll see in this clip here.
So it's been a learning curve, and you learn a lot about a lot of different people, and your circle gets smaller. And I think that's probably one of the reasons God put me in there, to just learn a lot and make my circle smaller. And you just have to listen to him and pay attention to it and say, okay, all right, you're off, you're off, you're off, you're on, you're on, you're on.
What you see is how did he respond when he was first put in jail? Because a lot of the interview dealt with his experience of going to jail. And see, most people that I know who have been in situations when they've gone to jail, it's a horrible, miserable experience. Obviously, none of us want to go to jail, but he took that opportunity to find humor, to find lessons, and to find a way to grow himself personally. And he even said that God put me in here for a reason. This is something that he was able to grow and learn from. And so when we look at him and we look at the story of Yusuf alayhi salam, we see that sometimes Allah might put us through a trial. We might go through something that's a hardship that we don't see far enough in the future to be able to know that this actually is something that is good for us, that Allah is protecting us from something else that might be harming us, not just physically, but spiritually and for our hereafter. Because when we weigh things side by side, the hereafter weighs so much more than everything in this life. What was really interesting that he mentioned was his brother was put in jail with him. We all know this. It was the Tate brothers that were put in jail. Now imagine this. You have a brother who goes to jail. Would you be willing to go to jail with your brother?
He said the absolute opposite. He said, I am so glad I went to jail with you. I would be furious if they sent you here by yourself. If they're going to lock you up, they better lock me up. And there was a time, about 2 months in, because there's less media pressure on Tristan, they were talking about releasing Tristan first. And he was saying, no, I won't leave without Andrew.
Going down with the ship.
I won't leave unless my brother leaves.
Wow.
I won't leave. And he was telling the guards, I won't leave. Keep me here. I'm not leaving. And they said, the judge says you have to leave, you have to leave. He goes, then I will stand outside the gate. I will sleep outside. I ain't leaving this jail. And our lawyer said, well, we can make an appeal to just release you because there's less media scrutiny around you. And Tristan's like, no, Andrew's in jail, I'm in jail. Refused to leave. He was adamant he had to stay. That's a brother for me. And it was the same for me. I said to Tristan, if they came into me and said, Andrew, go home, I'd be like, no way. Tristan's in jail, I'm in jail. We're in jail together. He never for a second complained, never moaned, and he was only in jail for being my brother.
Andrew, when he was talking about the story, he talked about how much respect he gained for his brother. He already loves his brother. He's his best friend in the entire world. And he said, I gained more respect than I could have ever imagined. I respect him more than anyone else in this world. Why? Because he went to jail simply for being his brother. He didn't do anything. He didn't upload any videos. He wasn't a part of any of the things that people were accusing him of, etc., etc. And yet he still was in jail with Andrew because of his association. As you saw, he mentioned that he stayed in jail even after being offered the ability to get out early, but he refused. I'm not going to get out until my brother gets out. Are we like this with our Muslim brothers and sisters? Are we here to help each other out when there's someone in need? Someone just needs something carried up to their apartment. Are we going to help them with that? Much less go with them and be with them in their times of difficult trial? This is what real ukhuwah is. This is what real brotherhood is. Islam, and see, they're blood brothers. Tristan is a Christian. He's not even a Muslim. As Muslims, there is more right upon me for my Muslim brothers than for my own family members. So what's important for us to understand and take away from this is that they have internalized what it means to have true brotherhood. Because when you look at the stories of the Sahaba, we see that these were people who used to be enemies, people who were fighting each other, trying to kill each other. And yet what happened? They became brothers, people who were so inseparable that they wanted, when one of them passed away, they would get so sad and they would want to go and meet them immediately, right? This was the closeness of the Sahaba. And this is what we see. And I think this is something that's really good to take away from Andrew's story, the closeness that he had with his brother. Further, there's a lot that we can see about the story of Yusuf, alayhi salam. Yusuf, as many of you well know, he was put in jail by the ruler, the king that was in Egypt at his time, because lies and accusations from women were laid against him. Very similar to this situation now. And Yusuf, even after many years in jail and being offered release, he refused it. Why did he refuse it? Because he did not want to be out unless his name was completely cleared. Right? And then we have the story of Yusuf that comes out, and Allah ends up clearing his name, and not just that, but elevates him to an even higher status afterwards. And so this is an opportunity for Andrew, not only after having his name completely cleared, but for achieving a high status in this world. For what sake? To be able to spread the deen of Islam, because now he is he has been, and he is now still continues to be one of the most talked about and influential figures on the face of this earth. Allah has given him a blessing that so many people spend tons of time on, hours upon hours, trying to be able to attain the influence to where they can hopefully guide people to this way that Allah has sent since the time of Adam till now, all the way through the final prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. And yet he has it all right in his hands. So he's been given an opportunity and also responsibility. And so we ask Allah to make it easy on our brother Andrew, because he's our brother. We love him and we love what he is doing. We ask Allah to overlook his shortcomings, because we all have shortcomings. I've got shortcomings and I want Allah to clothe them. And so we ask Allah to clothe his shortcomings and to help him grow in these times, because this is a very important and crucial time for him and his brother. One of the final things I want to mention is Andrew made a point about jail. He said that it confirms what we already know about the world. What is one of the major things that he's calling to? He's calling people to get out of this thing that he calls the Matrix, right? And everybody knows what he's talking about because it's a reference to the Matrix movie that first came out in 1999.
Do you want to know what it is? The matrix is everywhere. It is all around us. Even now, in this very room. You can see it when you look out your window or when you turn on your television. You can feel it when you go to work, when you go to church, when you pay your taxes. It is the world that has been pulled over your eyes to blind you from the truth.
What truth?
That you are a slave, Neo. Like everyone else, you were born into bondage, born into a prison that you cannot smell or taste or touch. A prison for your mind. You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
People are a slave, not just in the sense of the word that we know from the transatlantic slave trade, but people are slaves to different ideologies, different types of thoughts. And as Muslims, we are slaves willingly to our Lord, the creator of the heavens and the earth. And so jail for him was something that allowed him to realize the truth of the world, because a lot of times we can get distracted and get caught up in the glamour and the glam and having to keep up with different trends and things that are happening around the world. But jail will wake you up really quick, as he mentioned, and show you what is really going on with the powers that be. And when you try to go against their agendas, there are going to be consequences. And last but not least, he showed a very high level of tawakkul and stoicism. And he even mentioned that his brother has mastered the art of not caring about like what's going to happen, basically not having worries. His character is such that he's going to work really hard to do everything he can to get out, right? And this is what we do as Muslims. We tie our camel and then we trust in Allah. His brother has the opposite personality of him. So he was doing all the work. His brother was able to sit back and just know that everything was going to be okay, and that really helped balance him. And when he was mentioning this, I was thinking about how Muslims so often, everybody wants to just be the imam of the masjid. We all want to be on the shura and on the councils, and everyone wants to just be out there and having their names out there. But in reality, a good Muslim community, whether you're in the West or you're in the East, needs to be balanced, and each person needs to stay in their own lane. If you're really good at something, you need to understand those things that you're good at, and the other people who are around you who are in that same project, whatever it is that you're working on, whether it's a masjid or an organization, everybody needs to be on the same page and understand what other people's strengths are and their weaknesses so that everyone can fulfill a role. You can't, on a football team, have two quarterbacks. There's a quarterback, there's a running back, there's the line. If the line is not doing their job of blocking, it doesn't matter how good the quarterback is, right? So everyone needs to know their place, and this is the wisdom that we get from the seerah and we get from the lives of the companions of the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. Overall, I think that this was a very great opportunity. We see over just the last 6 months, he has evolved in such a way to where he was openly cursing Islam, making fun of aspects of Islam, to where now he has a respect for it. And this is what we want. We don't necessarily have to convert anybody. It's not our job. It's our job to convey the message in a good way, in a honorable way, to show that Islam is a force to be reckoned with. That we're not here to apologize, to say sorry, to be weak about anything, but to show our strength in a good way, with wisdom and with the best of character. And this is something that I think that Andrew is really doing a good job at. And really, overall, this was a beneficial podcast that so far has been able to reach a lot of people, especially the youth. And the youth are the ones who are going to take this torch from us, this next generation. So we ask Allah to keep him steadfast, to keep guiding him and guiding us all, and to guide all of the other people who are watching, those people who are also on the panel. So overall, at the end of this, Andrew and Tristan, if you do end up converting, but Andrew first, I want to invite you to make Umrah. If you come here to Saudi Arabia after you're off of house arrest, I personally give you my word that I will take you around. I will show you life here in Saudi Arabia, in Medina, and go with you to Mecca as you go and see the Kaaba for your first time. So we welcome you here to Al-Medina, to Saudi Arabia. Inshallah, hopefully we get to host you and to be able to show you the land that Abraham, peace be upon him, first came to when he first built the Kaaba thousands of years before the Prophet Muhammad, and then when it was finalized, when the final prophet came and gave us this deen, this perfect religion that we have today that is able to stand up to the matrix, to stand up to these forces of darkness that are coming and descending upon the world. Thanks, guys. If y'all like this content, please make sure that you share this with other people so that they can benefit from it as well. Lasso that like, saddle up on the subscribe, and guys, until next time, y'all take care now. Salam, y'all.
والقرآن المجيد بل عجبوا أن جاءهم منذر منهم فقال الكافرون هذا شيء عجيب